All right, well,
Mhm.
let's say hello and welcome you guys all to this chat. You guys are currently entering the Black African American Students in Engineering live chat, and we're really all happy to have you. So let's just go ahead and get this started. Again, I want to welcome each and every one of you. I think this will be a great conversation and a great time to learn about what engineering is like from real life engineering students. We were in your shoes not too long ago trying to apply to colleges and do different things. And so here we are able to give you guys a perspective of what this looks like a couple years removed from high school. So to start off, let me show you our agenda for the next hour. We'll be kicking it off by meeting our panelists and introducing everyone for the evening. These are all current engineering students here at Viterbi. And then we'll be able to answer all your questions through a webinar Q&A feature. We do ask that you wait to hold off your questions until we start the Q&A officially. However, how it works is you're able to submit questions at any time, and we'll basically trade off either answering questions verbally or having moderators come through and answer the questions in the comments. If you view our kind of chat section below, they'll give you more details about how the Q&A feature works. It's probably obvious given the title, but today we are discussing being Black or African American here in Viterbi. If you have any questions about the student experience in engineering, college in general, it's all fair game. Also, if you're reviewing this recording at a later date, don't worry, you can always email us questions anytime at vstudent@usc.edu. We may not get to all these questions during this session, but if you email one of us, then we will definitely follow up to answer your question and give you an in-depth response. So, as a reminder, we are just students. We aren't in admissions department, and we can't tell you about how to get into USC and answer really a lot of the admissions related questions. But if you do have those and want to learn more about what the admissions process looks like, please email viterbi.admission@usc.edu. At the end of the session, we'll talk about how you can get in touch with our admission staff and what you need to do to stay in touch with us, as well as give out some resources that can be useful for navigating the admission process. But before we get to all that, let me introduce myself and the rest of my amazing panelists and moderators who've joined me today. So, my name is Taylor Homiles. I am a senior studying computer science and business, graduating this spring 2025. I'm involved in the National Society of Black Engineers. It's been an organization I've been a part of since I was a freshman, and I'm the current president of the organization. I'm also in Scout, which is science outreach, where we basically go to various middle and elementary schools and teach STEM experiments to those students. I'm also part of Africa Active. They're a community-based organization here in Los Angeles, which does food drives for the local community. Outside that, I've been an intern at Microsoft doing technical program management and software engineering, and did a lot of work regarding health and technology. And now for the panelists. Oh, and I'll be your host. I guess I should mention that.
Hi, I'm Riley Ashford. I'm a current sophomore at USC with an industrial systems engineering major and a Spanish minor, and I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Some of my involvements include the National Society of Black Engineers, where I'm currently on the programs committee. I also have, in my freshman year, I did research with the Center of Undergraduate Research in Viterbi Engineering, and I'm also a part of Troy Camp, which is USC's like one of USC's oldest nonprofit student-run organizations, where we serve local LA youth and try to form long-term mentorship relationships with them.
Hi everyone, I'm Naya. I'm currently a junior studying mechanical engineering, and some of my involvements are I'm the powertrain lead of USC Racing. So USC Racing is our Formula One society on USC campus, and essentially what we do is design, build, and test a race car each year. So it's really exciting work. And what I do is I basically deal with everything from the engine, so it's really exciting on what we do there. And then, like Riley and Taylor, I'm also in NESB. I'm on the PCI committee, which is our pre-collegiate initiative. And that kind of serves as like part of NESB's mission to increase the number of Black engineers by going to local high schools and doing volunteering opportunities and kind of setting up events for high schoolers and sometimes other K through 12 students. And then also, like Riley, I did Curve. So I did research with the composites design team. So what we did was manufacture different structures using composite materials.
And then finally, let me introduce our moderators. They'll be behind the scenes answering our Q&A questions in the chat and supporting any of the questions you may have. Kaylee, do you want to come up and introduce yourself, or should I?
Yeah, I can go. Hi guys, I'm Kaylee. I'm a senior in astronautical engineering and excited to be here.
Hi everyone, my name's Ava. I'm a senior in biomedical engineering and I'm also doing a minor in cinematic arts. And yeah, I'm excited to answer all your questions.
All right, and that's our panelists and moderators. So thank you guys all again for joining us. And now it's time to submit your questions. If you are in this webinar, you can now take this time to submit your questions in that Q&A feature. Or if you're watching this later, you can submit your questions again to vstudent@usc.edu for answers at a later date. Now, let me see if any questions come through. If not, let me just open it up by saying, for our panelists, what organizations have had the most impact on your experience at USC?
I can go first. So I spent most of my time with USC Racing, and I really think it impacted me, especially coming in as a freshman, because there's such a strong learning environment. When you come in, they know you don't know anything. So all the juniors, all the seniors, like everyone who's above you, like wants you to learn, and they'll teach you whatever you need to know. So a lot of what we deal with is kind of using tools, using machinery, like learning how to create an engineering drawing, using CAD, and all these skills are like stuff you'll learn later on in your and like whenever you're studying engineering. And they're usually like higher division classes, but they're very adamant on like teaching you how to like use those materials, like teaching you how to learn those skills. And it really helped me because having someone just like sit down and teach me something was just so beneficial rather than kind of learning in a classroom with like 200 plus students. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really,
oh,
go ahead, Ryan.
sorry. I think for me, one of the most like impactful orgs I've been a part of is actually NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers. I think coming in like as a freshman, you're taking all these Viterbi classes, and honestly, you will probably be only a couple or maybe the only Black student like in a certain class. And so having that community as NSBE, like our chapter is one of the biggest collegiate chapters that you will find. Chapter of the year, like make sure I got all this stuff right because of the president on the line. But we've won chapter of the year like multiple times in our region. Our chapter is amazing with the companies that they bring in. And of course, like I said, like the social aspect as well is like super helpful. I've been able to talk to so many upperclassmen who helped me when I was thinking of changing my major, which I did end up doing. And so having that community of people who really want to see you succeed and help you succeed has been like super important. And additionally, like Troy Camp, like I said, like I mentioned on my slide, we do a lot of work with local LA youth, and being of service to my community is like super important to me. And so being able to work with children and help them with so many different things in terms of just leadership development and just even educational development too in some aspects has been like super wonderful. And I've had so many relationships with like other students formed through that as well. Like I found some of my best friends through that organization.
Yeah, and I just want to build off of a little bit what Riley said as it connects to Khalil's question, specifically about why it's important to have Black student organizations at USC and in Viterbi. And so just ditto off of that as far as the community aspect. In Viterbi, in our classes, you're not always going to see someone that looks like you, or it can be hard to find community of people going through a similar engineering experience. And I think organizations like NSBE, which is basically just the shortened version of the National Society of Black Engineers, provides that space that we come together weekly, we eat dinner together, we get to talk to companies, do professional development workshops, and even travel to conferences together. And so that really does provide that community of people who are going through a similar experience, but can also elevate you to develop professionally. And whether it's meeting other people in your major, meeting recruiters, or even getting a job, it's just all people there to support you and empower your experience. And that's why I think that's important. And yes, Riley was right. We've been chapter of the year for the past 2 years. So just wanted to my own horn there. It's just a great space to be in. And I think we're at almost 100 different members from all different types of forms of engineering. So thank you guys for that. Does anyone else want to add on to that answer as far as why we think it's important to have Black student organizations in Viterbi? Cool. All right, I want to go ahead and answer this question about D9 participation and Viterbi students. And so it happens honestly a lot when it comes to participating in D9. It's definitely something that our members are engaged in and various members in our NSBE chapter are a part of. The vice president of NSBE is in Alphas, and then even the previous president and some other members have also been a part of D9 organizations. And so it's very possible and there's overlap. It's just all about what you want to get involved in and what you want to do with your USC experience. And then Ava, I see you wanted to answer the question about, is it easy to get help tutoring or your tutorials, all of those types of things when you're facing struggles? And so Ava, did you want to share on that?
I didn't know how to make it so you guys could answer live, but I mean, I can address it. And then if anybody else wants to jump in, I do think USC definitely has a lot of resources, but sometimes it's kind of up to students to kind of figure out where they are. It can be hard because you'll always like learn about something that you didn't even realize existed. But I would say there's definitely a lot of tutoring help. A lot of the lower division classes have supplemental instruction where students will basically like do review sessions for classes. Like for example, when I took chemistry, like there were meetings every week where you could go get extra help with chemistry from people that did well in the class. And then I know that like our student health offers a lot of mental health resources. There's like therapy sessions, you can speak with a counselor. And yeah, if anybody else has other things that they want to add or jump in with.
No, yeah, some like general classes that you'll take as an engineer, like I had to take like physics 1, 2, and 3. And then by the time I got to physics, actually when I was in physics 1, I was struggling. So these like physics classes have like student instructors called SIs, and they're essentially kind of like a tutor, but they're like for everybody, and they'll provide like different worksheets, and then you do some problems like in a Zoom session with them. And it's really nice because a lot of the times approaching the professor is like pretty intimidating, or even going to like their office hours. So having like a student that's able to kind of teach you is like really nice, because like I'm somebody who kind of gets like anxious around like going to a professor because it's like so intimidating, but having like an SI to like teach you is also like really nice.
I just want to like take advantage of all of those types of supplemental learning opportunities there are. All of your professors are going to have office hours. Many classes have teaching assistants, which are basically like assistant professors that are also there for support, also have their own set of office hours. And then SI, supplemental information sessions, like all these different study mechanisms to support you in your learning. And if you've never heard of office hours before, it's basically a format where you go visit the professor in their like actual office and desk and get a chance to ask any questions you need, a lot of chance for one-on-one help. Outside of just the class structure, there's a lot of Viterbi specific resources that help with your learning as well. The Viterbi Learning Program, we can get tutors in almost any STEM class that we need and do private one-on-one tutoring for free. There's a writing center for writing. I use that a lot. I'm not a good writer by trade. And then there's also the math center as well to support your math classes. So I really think there's so many resources for every aspect of involvement that you're in. And then even if it's more on the mental health side, I've leaned on the Core Check Center and different resources to get free mental health support as well. And so USC really does support you overall as a student. And that's something that's been really unique about my experience as well. And so next I want to answer this question about NSBE conferences and that experience there. And so what a NSBE conference looks like is essentially we're usually traveling to a either in the state or outside the state conference. We have regional conferences every year in the fall and national conferences. And it's meant to bring people together for a set of professional development. We have a career fair where we'll get to network with companies and talk with different people. And then we also have workshops to help support our development as well. And so going to conference, it's more so what someone wants to get out of it. There's competitions we participate in, there's workshops we go to, but then we also try to network with recruiters. And people often do leave with internships and interviews. There they do on-site interviews. And I think at our last national conference, about 10 to 15 people walked away with some sort of job or internship afterwards. So those conferences are really meant to help support, your professional development, and I think have been really beneficial and effective. So the next question I will pose to the panelists is, what advice do you have for engineering students with other academic interests, such as minors or double majors?
I can speak on this because I have a minor in Spanish. Literally do it. Like my Yeah, my advice is literally go for it. Like do your minor if you have space. Because I know a lot of students come in with like AP test scores. You might have dual enrollment credit and you have that space. It's literally like the most like it's really relaxing to have like a break from your engineering courses and to have something that like you're that might like play into another passion you have. Like for me, I love like learning languages, and so having Spanish to like supplement, and my plan is to go abroad to Spain in my spring of my junior year, and to be able to do that all while getting my engineering degree has been like a great experience so far. Um, I cannot speak on terms of like doing a double major because of course that's like a whole other requirement in terms of how many credits you need. But I think as long as you take the correct path in terms of planning out your schedules, meeting with your advisors, and like having your 4 year plan down, and maybe even looking into doing some summer courses. Like for example, I took a summer course at a community college last semester. I took a math course, and so like doing those like strategic things to like get some credits out of the way, um, so to leave space for other things is like probably my best advice I can give.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that, like there's not necessarily anything that you have to like solidify right now. Like you can always talk to your advisors throughout the year. Like by the time you're a sophomore or junior, you can still talk to them and be like, hey, I want to add on a minor. You want to just basically your counselor is someone who's kind of like is you like you're giving you guidance and kind of showing you that, oh, this is your course plan, and then you can do these changes to it. You can make this change, but essentially you'll be fine as long as you talk to your counselor, and you don't really need to worry about like adding on a minor or like an emphasis like now, because Viterbi is pretty good at being able to like change like your course plan, and also like switching majors isn't necessarily an issue between different Viterbi within the school of Viterbi. So as long as you talk to your counselor and kind of tell them, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, then you're fine.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that was literally my situation. I didn't come in with a Spanish minor. I added my minor um at the end of my freshman year. Technically, like, it was during summer. I added it in summer between freshman and sophomore year. So yeah, it's very the advisors are very helpful with everything.
Thank you guys for that. And I think that also touches on another question regarding the double major experience someone had asked. And so I'll give my little piece, and then if you guys have anything to add, let me know. I will say double majoring in Viterbi isn't quite common. It's usually just with the course load, minors are more often happening than double majors. That being said, anything's possible as long as you just work with your advisor very early on and know what you want when it comes to whether trying to pick up a minor, study abroad, different things. You can be very strategic with your course schedule to fit in a double major and still graduate on time, or potentially consider adding another semester depending on what you want to do. Like one of our friends is double majoring right now in computer science and music. One of the, I don't know specifically which one, but in those two areas. So it's all possible. It's just more about what you want to do and what your time constraints are. But did anyone else have anything to share about that? Great. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit into talking about housing. And so I'd be curious to hear, where did you all live your freshman year and how did you choose your housing situation?
So I lived in one of the freshman residential colleges. For the most part, I'm pretty sure freshmen are required to live on USC housing. So the one I lived in was Parkside IRC, International Residence College, and it's a little bit different from like your typical dorms with like a communal bathroom and like everyone's just on the same floor. I shared a suite, so it's like I was in a room with my roommate, and then we were in a suite with seven of their girls. So essentially, there were eight people in a room, but like me and my roommate were in like a separate room. So it was really nice because one, we didn't have to share a bathroom with like that many people, and it was very nice and like chill and quiet. A lot of times with your open residence halls, like everyone's kind of like moving around, like it's like louder and everyone's more social, so it kind of depends what you like. You can probably see like a lot of like the reputations of different housings and like what each like environment is like online. But I was kind of, me and my roommate are typically people who kind of just like want to like stay in, have it nice and chill. So IRC was really nice for us, and it's also really close to Viterbi. It's on like that part of the campus where it's like next to all your engineering buildings, so the walks weren't that bad at all. So yeah.
In my freshman year, I lived in McCarthy Honors College because I have a scholarship from USC, and so if you have a scholarship, you're open to like choose McCarthy Honors College as your housing option, and so that's what I chose. I had a four-person double bath, so there was two bathrooms and like two girls to a bathroom, and the bathroom was like within our dorm, so that was like super nice compared to like some of the communal bathroom experiences that I have some of my friends told me about. So it was really nice to have my own bathroom. We had people, or we had our cleaning staff. They would come in and like clean our bathrooms for us and everything. So that was also nice. And yeah, I love McCarthy. McCarthy had like we we're right next to we're right next to the McCarthy dining hall. Like we have a dining hall right under our dorm, or we had the dining hall right under our dorm. And then we also had like study rooms. And so, yeah, it was great. I loved my freshman year housing.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm glad you guys had good freshman year experiences. I was in a similar boat as some people in the chat as far as trying to figure out between Somerville or other housing options. So I did end up living in McCarthy my freshman year. Not as nice as having two bathrooms. We were in the loft, which is basically your bed is above your closet, and then four people share one bathroom. But honestly, it was such a great experience. Like my friends as well, we were trying to decide, okay, should we do Somerville? Should we do McCarthy? We wanted that Black community and experience, but we also kind of just wanted some of the amenities that some of the other housing units gave. And so while I did choose McCarthy, I still lived in a room with all Black women, and we all live together to this day, which is really nice. Now being a senior, we've gotten apartments together, moved off campus, and now signed a lease. And so I really think it's about what you want and what you want most out of your experience. Being able to find people who looked like me and live with them was really nice for me, but then still being able to take advantage of other housing opportunities. However, I know people who live at Somerville love it. All the people from my year in Somerville are still close to this day and hang out. It's like a greater, I guess, network of people because now it's not just your housing unit, but it's your whole floor of just Black people. So pros and cons, but I don't think you can honestly go wrong with either choice.
Which building is Somerville in?
Somerville is in Party Tower. So that one is going to be by one of the dining halls. It's by like EBK, if you guys are familiar with it, and it's on campus. And so it's a very central location to get to like the libraries, your classes, and all those other things. Versus McCarthy is technically across the street from main campus, but once you come, you'll see it's like literally you just cross the light and you're right on campus again. So it doesn't feel far at all.
And I just wanted to add the cool thing about Somerville is like almost every or there's multiple like affinity spaces within the building. Like there's not Somerville in Party, sorry. Within Party, there's multiple affinity spaces. So like there's Somerville, which is like the Black student floor. There's like the Latino student floor. I think is women in engineering in Somerville, or is that somewhere else? Or in
Oh,
Party, but is there somewhere else?
that was in IRC. I was on the women in engineering, in science and engineering floor.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, Party has multiple affinity spaces. So I think that's like super cool about the building. Like it's super diverse. Like I had a lot of friends in there freshman year. And yeah, so if you're thinking about Party, like you definitely couldn't go wrong.
And then on the topic of community spaces, are any of you all from Caribbean descent? And if so, have you guys found any support for your background? And I will go on to share about this. I'm not Caribbean descent either, but we do have a Caribbean Student Association, a CSA, and they host events all of the time. And so I think that's definitely a space that's accessible for people to find that community. And I've met people from Bahamas, Jamaica, Trinidad, all of that through that organization. So it definitely is a population. It's a little bit smaller since we are far from the Caribbean, but still there and people there to support you. So shifting back into gears on professional development, we have a couple more questions about that. One question is, does anyone here have personal experience in the Slurm lab at USC? If not, what's your research experience been like in general and how have you all liked it?
Yeah, so I was in the Center for Undergraduate Research, Viterbi Engineering, and essentially I heard about it through the summer program I was doing, BSI, which I think most of us here did BSI, which is the Viterbi Summer Institute. Getting back on track, so I did Curve, and it paired me with one of my like top choices for which engineering lab I wanted to be in. And I was familiar with composites, and I just scheduled my interview with the professor who was like heading that project. And he accepted me, so it was pretty easy to kind of like transition into that. And I was part of a team, so it wasn't like a lot of pressure just like on me as like the one research assistant. But yeah, it was like a really fun experience that I did freshman and sophomore year. But yeah, that's my experience with research.
My research experience is kind of similar because I also did curve. But with me, I also participated in the Viterbi Summer Institute the summer before my freshman year, and we did research with that program. And I actually continued my research project from VSI into the school year, and I did my research through the Glamour Lab, which is a computer science lab because in freshman year I was a computer science and business major. And I really loved my research experience. I did it all of freshman year. I learned a lot about like well, number one, what research is, what it really takes. I made a research poster at the end of the program, and my research was in early detection of Alzheimer's and dementia related diseases in the elderly. And we were using like an AI detection system basically, where like basically you could take it into a home and someone could like take the test on a tablet and it could be able to diagnose them like right away. And so we were like working on developing that technology.
That's so cool. I've done a little bit of research experience. I've also learned it's not necessarily my personal cup of tea, but what I was doing one time was looking into this algorithm called reinforcement learning, and we were trying to figure out how could we use this algorithm that trains AI to predict pandemic response. Specifically, like let's say you ran a school or a hospital, if you were to upload your floor plan into this model, it could give you an output that tells you exactly how you should quarantine and how you should do emergency response procedures based off of how much risk you wanted to give and how much type of infection rate that you wanted to have. So that was really cool seeing how CS transferred into the real world, and it definitely is along the lines of what I want to do long term. So another question someone has asked is, how have you all experienced real world or hands-on opportunities like internships, projects, or networking? And I can start with this. I think I guess I'm a little bit older than you guys, and so I've had a couple more experiences. But honestly, at USC, I really think everything's a networking opportunity, like literally everything. A hackathon, a job fair. You'll even see nowadays, I honestly filter these emails out, but they're constantly emailing you about this company hosting an info session or I forget what they call them, but it's like a coffee chat, an hour, it'll be like an hour-long presentation, coffee chats here, Trojan Talks, that's what they're called. Their companies doing Trojan Talks all the time. So week to week to week, there's always ways to develop yourself professionally. And for me, it's manifested in a lot of different ways. I've been able to travel to conferences, meet companies. A company I met at a hackathon ended up flying me out for a couple of things that they were doing in New York. I've been able to have jobs. I've worked at Microsoft for the past 2 summers, partially because of connections I built here. And even now, I'm going to Afrotech next month. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's exciting. I'm going to Afrotech all because of connections I've made at Viterbi as well. So I think the options are plentiful. I mean, the school really is here to support you and help you grow. It's more so finding your niche of what you like to get involved in, what you like to do, and then you can network from there and find more opportunities that are aligned with your interests. I hope that answers you guys' question. I can definitely go more into that if you guys would like. Does anyone else have anything to share about real world opportunities and networking?
Yeah, so kind of like the same thing Taylor you were saying. Like I was at a PCI event and like one of the parents was like, I forget what, some advisor for like a specific energy company, and he's like, "Oh, do you have your resume?" And it's like, "Yes, I do." So like there's just stuff you got to be like ready for. But yeah, almost everything's a networking opportunity. You never know who you're gonna meet at different events. So it's really cool to be at like USC, where a lot of people want to recruit USC students because they know you have like a high level education. They know you have what it takes to be at this school. So that's who they were looking for. So it's really nice to kind of be in that community, go to different career fairs and also like networking at different NSBE conferences. But yeah, I did an internship the summer of my freshman year within at Collins Aerospace, which was like near where I live. But essentially everything that I was doing was dealing with composite parts for different airplanes. So it was really cool to do that internship, and I got that internship through different networking that I did at USC. So yeah, you just kind of like go to different career fairs or go to conferences. You'll meet somebody, you'll meet somebody, you'll have an opportunity, and like things will just start coming your way if you just put yourself out there.
Also, you guys, I got to tell you all this fun story about how networking really landed me in my favor. So, what happened? This has nothing to do with professional development, by the way. But I was volunteering with this one org. I through this student org called Co Society. I was volunteering with this one org called Assistance League. So we were doing our thing. I've worked with them maybe like 6 months, a year. And I remember they messaged me and they're like, "Oh, do you have some girls that you know are available for this one opportunity? We just need more people." I'm like, "Of course, I know some people." And they were kind of being really vague about it. They were like, "Oh, we need like, I think 12 to 6, and you had to sign an NDA." But I was just going with it. I didn't really ask too many questions. I'd worked with them before, and they said it would be a good experience. We met Megan the Stallion. Megan the Stallion. We got merch, clothes, shoes. Oh my goodness, guys. It was such an experience. And it was all just because I had been volunteering with this organization. And they reached out to me, I guess, because they knew my email. But so they all that to say, literally every experience can be something or turn into a networking experience, whatever that looks like for you. It's just really finding what you're passionate about and can get involved in to find those types of experiences. To shift to another question, what would you guys say your life is like as an engineer? And would you say that your life feels balanced as an engineer?
I would say more now that I'm a sophomore, I feel like I found my footing more than I was a freshman. I figured out like what extracurriculars work for me and everything, but I definitely think I do have that balance of STEM and non-STEM like activities and interests, especially now that I have my Spanish minor. I'm taking my Spanish courses. So yeah, I think I definitely have a balance now because the service was really important to me and I got into Troy Camp. And so the classes I'm taking this semester, I'm only taking I'm only taking one engineering course. I'm taking my one industrial systems engineering course, and then I'm taking a material science course, and then a gender studies course, and then my Spanish class. So yeah, so it's a pretty good balance right now.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I do kind of have that balance. Yeah, sophomore year was kind of where I was able to like find my footing, kind of like establish a routine because it's really easy to get like wrapped up in classes and kind of getting tunnel vision, but there's so much here at USC to offer, and you just kind of like need to remember that life is not all about engineering. So a lot of the times me and my friend will just like we'll get like emails from like the School of Cinematic Arts and be like, there's a free showing of this movie, and then we'll schedule time to just go watch a free movie on USC campus. Like, don't even have to go anywhere. So as long as you kind of like make sure you're scheduling in times to like go do whatever your interests are and kind of keeping up with the different like hobbies that you have because you're not one dimensional. Like you have other hobbies and different passions that you enjoy, and making time for that is really beneficial. So
I also agree. I think that balance comes over time. And I will say it changes semester to semester. I mean, some people find out that they love loading all their classes up on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so that they can have full free days to just study and relax and do things. Others, once you find out, okay, I actually can't do a class before 10 a.m., let me respect myself and make sure I schedule my classes later, vice versa. And so I don't think it's balanced, make not come instantly, but over time you learn yourself, you get to practice. And like right now, I think I'm the most balanced I've ever been. But if you would have asked me freshman or sophomore year, that wouldn't have been the case. That doesn't mean I don't have some late nights sometimes, but overall, it's balanced out. And that means that I think just today I slept until 12. So it works out. Do you guys have any advice on study tips for engineering and how you guys succeed academically?
for me, a lot of the times you'll be able to tell when it's like, okay, I'm absolutely not understanding anything that's happening in these lectures. And a lot of times the professor is overcomplicating it. Like it's not just you, like the professor is overcomplicating it. So if you're doing like your general courses like physics, chemistry, material science, you can look a lot of this stuff up and there's like different review videos on YouTube. I can't tell you how many times that saved me because I would just review the concepts on YouTube where they're explaining it to me in terms that I understand and then do practice problems that are given like through the professor. And that's honestly what's helped me so much because when the professor is like teaching in a way that you can't explain, like there's nothing you can do other than just like trying to find supplemental material that's kind of teaching in a way that you understand. So it's kind of understanding how you learn and how you learn best. So
One of the ways Or like the way I kind of study is just by blocking out time in my schedule and like sitting down and like locking in at certain times of the day or certain times of the week. And that's why Google Calendar is my best friend. Like if you don't have the Google Calendar or you're not using it, you will start using it in college. Like or some kind of scheduling app because you'll put in your classes, you'll put in your club meetings, and then you'll just realize like the space that you do have for studying, you're like, wow, I actually need to manage it and make sure I am getting my hours in because your schedule can fill up fast. And yeah, so I always just make sure I set aside that studying time. Maybe if I have like an hour between classes, I'll go sit in a random place on campus near my class and just like try to like review one concept. Or if I have like 4 hours in a night, I might because I cannot study in my room. I've learned that about myself. I cannot study in my room. So like I'll just get up and go to Levy, which is like one of our on-campus libraries. It's like open 24 hours. And I can just like sit in a cubicle and like try to do as much work as possible. So time management is definitely like a big thing.
Yeah, I sent Riley a Google invite when we had scheduled lunch one day, and she was like, "Thank you so much." No, we love our Google calendars here. It's peak, especially when you color code it. Oh my goodness, that's great. So I think this is a good question for all of us to answer as far as can everyone kind of explain their major to a high school student? But specifically for Riley, someone was interested in doing chemical engineering and but then also learned about industrial systems. And so could you talk about your experience as an ISC major and kind of how you think that ISC compares to other forms of engineering?
Yes, I won't say I'm an expert on industrial systems engineering. Just to preface this, this is my first semester in the major. But what I understand, industrial systems engineering is basically engineering applications to make systems or any like any system or any like mechanism more efficient in like a company or like an industry. So for example, there's a lot of like supply chain applications for industrial systems engineers across all types of industries. I've seen job offers in like fashion in like even like the health field and different things like that. But you can also take the major many different ways. You can even do consulting as well. And compared to other engineering majors, I feel like some people have called it like it's like the business major of engineering because it's less technical and like STEM heavy than like mechanical or aerospace. Like you don't take as many like hardcore STEM classes, but there's still a lot of other like applications you do with it as well. So it's just like yes, it is like it might be like easier, but I still think it's a great choice if you're interested in more of like a businessy side than like a hardcore technical like hands-on applications of engineering. Does that make sense? Did I like do well? Hopefully that was made clear.
Yeah, no, I think that totally makes sense and definitely kind of describes the how ISU kind of understand the underlying processes for making something effective and something working. Like I think when doing anything really, doing projects and stuff, it's very easy to think about directly what we're personally working on, like what we can contribute or even managing a small group. But imagine extrapolating that to layers of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people. Like ISCs are really thought to think in a way to understand that and break big problems down into systems that can solve them. So that's my little two
Yeah,
cents about it.
you made me think about this, but Nesby actually brought in, I think it was Northrop Grumman last year. Is that right? And they had an industrial systems engineer on the panel, and she described her job as like managing all the schedules on the of the company, like on the base of like the different teams. And so she's like basically did like all the behind the scenes to make sure all the other areas of the company could like work without like could function without like any mess ups happening. So yeah, I think that's a great like job description that kind of ties into what to what Taylor was saying.
And then Naya, do you want to also share kind of how you would describe your major?
Yes, so I'm a mechanical engineering major, and the best way I can describe it is kind of like you're dealing with a lot of moving parts. Like you're dealing with dynamic, like mechanical engineering is essentially you're getting a like sample from each of the engineering disciplines. So you're doing a little bit of electronics, you're like coding like an Arduino, like that's some projects that we've had. And you're doing fluid dynamics, you're learning how fluid moves in different aspects. So you're doing a lot of different applications. And I want to say mechanical engineering is more like the broader like engineering major, because a lot of mechanical engineers can go into different fields after they graduate. So a lot go into energy, some go into automotive, some go into aerospace. Like you'll generally see mechanical engineers in a lot of different aspects. But for me, mechanical engineering, you're essentially learning, how's the best way to describe this? Like, okay, here's an example. So you have like a crane that has to carry a specific load. You need to basically calculate and kind of figure out like what's the best way to do that and what's like the maximum load for that crane to carry. So mechanical engineering, you're kind of doing a lot of different things, and you're just essentially, you're basically kind of like doing a lot of like operations, a lot of like electronics, but also the physics side of it, like static motion and dynamic motion. So like I know it's a little all over the place, but mechanical engineers are all over the place and you're doing a lot of different things. So
Yeah, and then I'll share a little bit about computer science and touch on biomedical sciences as well. So fun fact, I actually started out as a pre-med biomedical engineering major. So I am familiar with that program. I did that for like a year. But essentially, if we extrapolate engineering, right? Engineering is just solving problems. We're creating solutions to solve problems. In a biomedical sense, we're using the human body as kind of our system. We're talking about how flows and different concepts that kind of lean a little bit into chemistry, biology, all these different areas can solve problems in the body. And computer science, we're talking about the same thing, but with computers. We're using computational knowledge. We're learning different programming languages, kind of building our tool set of what we can solve problems, but from a computer standpoint instead of in the human body. So you'll kind of find the same way they're solving problems in mechanical engineering, but at the concept of physics, and then industrial systems a little bit more niche as far as coming from a systems perspective. How can we solve problems? So that's the best way I would necessarily describe it. And the computer science curriculum specifically, we kind of lean both on theory and hands-on, which is really nice. And you're basically learning how to break down every problem into a computer format, or I guess from a computer's perspective, and then use your skills in programming to solve that issue. So I hope that kind of touches on what you guys were asking when it comes to majors and the biomedical experience. Let me know if you have more questions about biomedical engineering specifically. So Riley, we do have another question for you, and I think we can all share in this as well. So if you all are comfortable with sharing, did you all receive a scholarship from USC? And what are some things that you think you did in high school that kind of, I guess, contributed to your application or just to your overall high school experience from high school to college?
Yes, so I was really fortunate to receive a lot of academic merit scholarships from USC. I received a trustee scholarship, which is full tuition. And then I also have I have like a Viterbi specific scholarship that was awarded to me as well, based on my like just application to Viterbi. So it's just a Viterbi like student scholarship on top of that. And then I have like, honestly, I have like a random like little like, or not little, but like it's only $1,000 a semester scholarship, random university scholarship. I honestly don't know where that came from. I think they just kind of like threw it in. I don't. They just kind of threw it in there based off of my application. But in high school, I kind of had like a lot of different involvements. My main one was that I was the president of my diversity council, and I was really involved in that organization like through different or all 4 years of high school. I also was like on the golf team my like freshman year. I was in some like community organizations as well. And honestly, I just feel like the best, or like what I feel like contributed mainly was not only not only did I have like the academics to back up my application, but I also had that well-roundedness of all of my clubs and extracurriculars. And it's really quality over quantity. So I feel like there's a lot of people who might be involved in 10 clubs, but like how much work did you really do if you're involved in all 10 of them? I feel like it's good to like kind of narrow it down and like actually contribute to the club in terms of maybe like a leadership position to really show like what USC is looking for in students, which is leadership and all of our other things that and all of like the other like qualities of a student that USC would want.
Yeah. Really appreciate you sharing that. I can also, I guess, kind of share on like just the high school experiences and coming into college. In high school, I actually did nothing related to engineering. I was playing a lot of sports. I was on the soccer field, I was running track. They even had me doing cross country, which I couldn't imagine doing right now. But I was really passionate about that, got involved with those, and then did end up getting some leadership positions in those organizations as well. So I would say biggest advice when it comes to navigating high school is just get involved in whatever you're interested in. It's your involvements that are going to help inform you about who you are, what you like to do, and all these different things. Then when it comes to college applications, you're more so translating how your involvements are going to turn you into a good engineer. Maybe I hadn't dissected actually we did do dissections in middle school. I don't know. Maybe I hadn't programmed before I came to college, so I didn't necessarily have that type of experience, but I did know how to collaborate in teams and problem solve because of my experiences in sports. Everything is a transferable experience. It's just all about how you talk about it. So don't feel like you have to do one type of experience to be able to go to college or go into engineering. Everyone's an engineer, so just get involved with what you're passionate about. Some other questions that we have is, how easy is it for you to switch engineering majors if your preferences change? So Riley, did you want to start? And then I can also share because I've changed my major as well.
Yes, so the process was actually way easier than I thought it was gonna be. I was so stressed out. I was like, oh my gosh, like my plan's changing, like what's gonna happen? Literally, all I did was get on a Zoom call with an advisor. He planned out my next 4 years in like 10 minutes, and he was like, okay, we're ready. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was that easy. So it's really a matter of just like once you figure out what you want to switch your major to, you make that appointment with the advisor in that specific program. So I met with an industrial systems engineering advisor, and then he was able to plan the rest of my 4 years out with like his course plans. And the interesting thing too, if you switch from certain majors to other ones, sometimes your major requirements for your like the major you want to switch to, some of them can be like taken away in place of like what you already have. Does it make sense? So it's like, for example, I had a computer science class that they fulfilled as an ISE requirement. So that's also helpful too when you're switching majors.
Thank you for that. And then I'll also share, so I've changed my major like 2 or 3 times now. So I came in pre-med biomedical engineering, realized I didn't want to be a doctor, and BME just didn't line up with what I wanted to do in the future anymore. Loved math. A lot of people did CS, switched to computer science. Some aspects of computer science I didn't love. I wanted to learn other skills as well. And now I'm computer science and business administration. The great thing about Viterbi is that once you're in, you can switch to any major in Viterbi that you're interested in. And so that's really was what calmed me coming into the school, as far as knowing that if I decided something wasn't for me, I could always switch over. And Riley mentioned a good point about how a lot of the classes do transfer over. And so even though I made all these switches, I'm still graduating on time. Almost everything counted except for maybe one chemistry class. And so it all worked out. So we are running close on time. And so I do want to just kind of rapid fire some of these other questions before we get to our last one. Someone had mentioned about doing quant in different areas, or quantitative finance, investment banking. Don't know anyone in investment banking. However, I do have some close friends that work as software engineering for quant firms, and they really enjoyed it. It's just a different type of experience. And we also have clubs specifically for the quant community, one being called Quant SC. So definitely look into that if you can. As far as the overall application process, we can drop links in the chat that kind of outline that process for you. When it comes to the electrical and computer engineering experience, that's just more so hands-on on the electronic sides of things. We do have close friends on their experience, and they all seem to enjoy it as well. They also have a lot of all the academic support we've outlined, as far as teaching assistants, office hours, all those different things are available in that department. And so it's really all about following your interests. And then how does a CS game major differ from a CS major regularly? You'll find that some engineering majors have emphasis. Biomedical has like molecular and cellular, I think a mechanical track. CS has all these different emphases in business, games, and such and such. It's really just all about where do you want to hone in your focus. A lot of the core components of these different majors will be similar, but then maybe the electives that you take or your upper division classes as a senior and a junior might differ from someone who's from the pure CS track. Now, that all being said, Before we end off this live chat, I must ask all the panelists, why USC?
Honestly, I think we touched on this a lot today, but USC brings in a lot of opportunity for its students, and they also like care about their students by giving them so many resources. So that's kind of what drew me to USC. Like what we talked about with networking opportunities, outside from NESB, there's different career fairs, there's different involvement fairs, there's different networking events, there's Trojan Talks where you can even like meet with a company representative and you're just in a room with three other students. Like you can have that one-on-one conversation with them. So USC kind of sets up their students for success in that sense by giving them so many resources to succeed within their major and also after graduation in whatever career field you want to go into. So that's kind of why I chose USC because I know they would support me like with whatever I was doing. And I knew that like going into USC, like I'm gonna be lost in some of my classes. So I'll have those tutoring or opportunities, but also have different networking events like once I graduate and kind of build in those connections that'll help me in the future.
For me, I always narrow down this question into like three main points: location, Trojan family, and academic opportunity. So location, USC is located literally in the heart of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is an amazing city in terms of cultural diversity, in terms of entertainment. There's literally concerts. There's so many concerts a week. Like you can literally you can see almost any artist in LA. There's literally a music festivals. Like I have tickets to Camp Flog Gnaw in November. So there's just so much amazing things to do in LA, and of course the weather is beautiful. Um, for Trojan family, the Trojan network at USC is insane. Like Naya touched on, there's a lot of networking opportunities, and honestly, recruiters once they see that University of Southern California on your resume, they might take your resume aside and put it in a special pile just to make sure they review you specifically more than other candidates just because USC has such a big reputation. And one of my favorite things to do is to wear USC merch in the airport because everyone who's a Trojan will say "Fight on!" Like they're so excited to see USC students as alumni, and so the Trojan family is really strong. And then academic opportunity, Naya touched on basically everything that I would say. Just there's so many opportunities for students to succeed. I feel like in Viterbi, there's not really a competitive nature. Like they want everyone to succeed as a student. Um, and I think another great thing about Viterbi is their philosophy of engineering plus, where they want students to be well-rounded. And I'm in a perfect example. Like I have a Spanish minor, and I do philanthropy and other stuff with my extracurriculars. Like, and they really encourage that in students. And so those are what the reasons why I chose USC.
And then I'll just end off with saying I didn't get a chance to visit the school or really much of that. I was applying out of COVID. And so I had to really do a vibe check online. And I think one of the biggest things I took away from Viterbi that still rings true today is that here you're not just an engineer. You're an engineer who's empowered to follow all of your other passions. For me, it was really community involvement and community engagement. And I really felt like this was a place that built into the curriculum, into its nature, that we're not just engineering for what we're learning in the classroom. We really are the whole engineering a better world and wanting to learn how we can take our engineering abilities beyond the classroom into the real world to support other people. And so the fact that that was something that was important and a value of Viterbi and it's a value of my own, that alignment was really nice and was why I chose USC, and it still rings true to this day. Outside that, this school really does not just want you to succeed, but invest in your success. And that's not something you can find everywhere. Well, I know we're coming close to time, and so I just want to thank all of you all for coming to this live chat. And I hope you enjoyed it tonight and gained some insight on USC. If you missed any part of this live chat, you can rewatch our entire thing on YouTube, so don't worry, we'll be there and able to answer your questions. The admissions office would love for you to stay connected with Viterbi. They host information sessions, so we highly recommend that you all reach out to do one of those. You can register for an info session at viterbi.admission.usc.edu/visit, listed here below. We also have an email and a phone number that you can call for any questions or concerns with Viterbi admission. I also just want to shout out some amazing resources for you students. You can see all their websites right here coming up just a minute. There they go. And so there you can learn about Viterbi, read our amazing blogs about student life. We post blogs about once every 2 weeks or so. So hear more about me, Riley, Naya's lives, and get to see what it's like to be a student on the day-to-day. I also want to shout out our, Viterbi Voices, our podcast as well. We also have a podcast where we release information there. The early action deadline is November 1st, so please apply. If you want a scholarship, if you want a grant, all of these different merit-based scholarships and awards, you must apply by this deadline. So we highly recommend. Last thing is that if you want to learn more about student life, I kind of mentioned it before, but look out for the podcast, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, or even email us your questions. Thank you again for tuning in. Good luck on your college application season. You all got this. You'll be amazing. Stay safe. And as always, fight on. Bye, everyone.